This weekend we have a big event here at the house, and so it's time to get the lawn looking nice. And today we're going to be doing that with the ECOVACS GOAT A3000. Now, I just recently talked about the A2500. This is a very similar model, but one big unique difference where we have a LiDAR system built here on the top instead of using an RTK antenna. A huge thank you to ECOVACS for sponsoring this video. Let's get started. So first off, this is the easiest product I think I've ever had to get set up. All I had to do, get it out of the box, plug it in, it just needs a power source, and that's it. There's no other antenna or anything that I need to connect, and it's able to use this little LiDAR on top to understand where it is on my yard, map everything, and then go out and get the yard mowed. Now, it does come with a little cover on here if you need that, and then the only thing is you need to be careful when you are picking this up, moving it around, that you don't damage this at all. So that's very important to this. But other than that, everything is very similar, works the same. So first, let's talk about what this can do. So this is able to cover 3/4 of an acre, which is so much area. And then this is built on a 32-volt energetic platform, which means that throughout its mowing, it's going to give constant power, I think 100 watts power to those blades, so that it's going to have a nice clean cut. And then it's also just going to be able to move very quickly, churning and everything like that. Now down here we do have a rain sensor, so it can automatically come back if it's raining, or you can turn that off in the settings, but it is water resistant. And then here we have the LELS Pro. So this is a dual LiDAR navigation system. So instead of just having one LiDAR, it's using the top LiDAR as well to position exactly where it is. And then it's going to be able to go wherever it needs to on your lawn to be able to get that mowed and cut. With my night vision camera, you can see the LiDAR coming out the front, which is going to help it see different obstacles, but the 360-degree LiDAR on top is able to spread light here on the wall, and that's able to help it position where it is in your yard, so it's going to reflect off any different objects that you have around and know exactly where it is. Now on the bottom here we have a dual blade disc, so they're offset a little bit so that you're not going to have any lines missed, but this is actually 33 centimeters wide, or about 13 inches, and it does such a good job at cutting. So it does come with some extra blades. You would want to replace these every 3 months or so, and we have been mowing with this, and you can see that there is nothing stuck on there. It will look great, maybe just one little thing I had to take off, but those are working great. So these blades do spin at 3,000 RPM, so it's going to be able to handle this grass no problem. And over here on the side, we have a little edge thing there. That's for the TruEdge. So this is able to cut up to 5 centimeters or about 2 inches away from the edge of your lawn. That's something I'm always very particular on, and this is doing a great job at that. So as close as this is going to get, and that to the edge of the lawn, that's what it's going to cut. We'll check that out. And then down here we have the dual wheels with the traction control on here with those nice beefy wheels. Now because of the 32-volt platform it is built on, it's able to go up a slope of 50% or about 27 degrees, and it's going to be able to handle those without any problems. So now all we need to do is get this put on the station, get it connected to the app, and map out the yard. Now we're going to dive into the ECOVACS app to get this connected. There's a QR code right here on the front to pair it up. So here in the app, I just need to plus the barcode at the top, and I can scan the front just like that. I've powered on the robot, and then the first thing I need to do is adjust the pin code on here for safety. So if it's stolen, somebody would need to enter the pin code to even use it. So I'm going to put that in now, and then I need to do it a second time. All right, now we are good to go. So we're all set. Then we're going to connect it to Wi-Fi. Now we need to turn on network connection mode and just hold down the charging button for 3 seconds.
Now setting up the network.
And now it found the robot, so we're going to tap on there, and we're going to enter our Wi-Fi password. Now we're going to head and give it a name. So this is the GOAT A3000. And then we're going to do an update for the software. We can also turn on automatic update, which is really great that this has it. The update has now complete, and we are ready to map the lawn. So we just need to head in here. It says prepare the charging station. So we've already plugged it in and have it powered. So everything is good to go there. So now we are going to connect it, which we've done that. And then you need to make sure there's room in front of the charging station. It just needs to be flat. So far, going up this little concrete ramp here has been no problem. And then we need to make sure the grass is cut down to about 4 inches, which I have already done that. And then attach the station to the ground. Great. Now we're going to prepare the robot. So we need to take off the cap, protective sensor there. Then you need to make sure it's charged about 50%. It's already charged up, and now we are ready to map. So all I need to do is come in here and start mapping, and it says make sure it's sunny. So then it can go through a pass of about 2.6 feet wide. So I have a fence that we're gonna go through the gate there, and then you need to make sure it's not tilting about 2 inches, and it's not going down any drops that are too big. And make sure you move everything out of the lawn. So now it is making sure it's docked, making sure the charge is enough, checking the sensors, and it's good to go. All right, let's go ahead and move out of the way and get it mapped. So now I need to drive it where I want it to start. So it wants me to connect over Bluetooth. Now we just need to tap start. So here we have the chance to auto map. We can also erase. So we're gonna go and tap auto map. And so now it's just gonna follow the perimeter, and at any time I can tap end and it's going to stop. So there it's seeing that the border changed, moving a little bit, and doing its best to stay right up next to it. Now right here, I'm actually going to stop it, and I'm going to manually control it, and we're going to keep all of this in the same area. So we're going to drive over here and tap auto map. A little close there. Now it's going to figure out the best way to do this. That gets right up next to the edge. I love it. And if there's any spot where it didn't do exactly what I wanted it to do, I can hold down on roll back, and then it will undo just a little bit. And I can keep doing that until it's back to where I want to continue. And then here I'm just going to manually control it a little bit. And then once I feel like it's in the clear, I can go back to auto mapping. Super simple and seamless to get it mapped the exact way you want it to be done. And now that we are back at the beginning, I need to tap end, or I can draw it right to where I started. Now we're going to tap end, and I have a few options here. So congratulations, we completed it. We can go mow, or we can go to map editing. I can combine areas, divide them, rename them. We can create paths between them, create no entry zones, so maybe a play place that you want to drive around. But I'm going to go ahead and create the other areas, create paths between them, and we'll start the mowing. We now have everything mapped out, and that was so easy to do. The auto mapping worked perfectly right along the edge. It was able to do about 95% of this without me needing to interact. Just one time I wanted to make it go to the edge just a little bit more, so I did the roll back and continued on. But now we have everything mapped out. So if we go here into the yard, we can see that we have my 3 different areas, and then they have a path that is connecting them all, and one is going around the fence. Now, if you do have 2 areas really close together, try to make a little space between them, or it will automatically combine them, and you can't use a path when they're automatically combined. So that works great, that I left a little tiny gap there and connected those, and then here we have the backyard. Now let's dive in and talk about the different mowing options. So right here you can do a auto and hit start and it's gonna go. But you can specify exactly what you want to have done. We'll get to that in a minute. Or you can dive into the settings and modify per area or per your entire yard. So I'm gonna go into the settings here. Here you can see how much I've already mowed. And then here we have the mowing settings. So first up at the top, we have auto. So auto is going to mow the entire lawn this setting. So we can do delicate, which is gonna go a little bit slower, or we can go to quick and it's gonna move pretty quick around the yard. So I'm gonna keep it at that. Now the next option is we have the mowing height. So we can go to 1.2 inches all the way up to 3.5, and that's automatically going to change here on the mower. That's electronic, that's really cool. So I think for today, we're gonna set this down to a 2.8. That's going to be a really nice cut. And then here we have avoidance mode. So this is how it's going to navigate around different objects in your yard. You can do flat ground with short grass. So we have that. We have flat ground, short grass, pretty good. You can do a normal environment. Obstacle avoidance will be performed at the normal height, or you can do high grass environment. Maybe you need to cut down your grass. It's not going to avoid objects that are as short. So it's going to keep going and not avoid grass as an obstacle. Does that make sense? So we have, we'll do normal environment today because the grass is getting a little bit long. So those are the options for auto mowing. If you went to the area, you can choose those different options per yard. So if you want the front to be a little bit shorter or back or whatever, you can do that. Then after you choose your area and the mowing settings, then you can choose the direction. So here you have this cool setting where it's going to change based on the week, or every week it's going to do a different pass so that you don't see big lines in your yard every single time the same. Here you can even go in and customize if you want it on a diamond shape or north, south, east, west, whichever way you want it to go. And then if you have this on, it's automatically going to change that. Then you have edge mowing. So this is how it's going to treat the edge. It's either going to use edge mowing where it comes right along exactly where you created it. You have cross boundary mowing. Maybe in one of your yards, you're fine with it going a little bit past that to easily maneuver. You can do that, or you can mow along the boundary. So you have those options there. You can try those out to see which one works best. And then at the bottom, you have the option to turn on the rain sensor. So if the rain sensor is on and it starts raining, it will come back. Or if it detects that it's rained, it's going to wait a few hours before it goes out to mow. And then you have animal protection. So if animal protection is on, it's not going to mow during that time. This is helpful at night. Maybe you have animals wandering into your yard. This is going to stay here to protect those. It still can run at night when you turn animal protection off, but it's just adding extra safety for possibility of animals being in your yard. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off for now, as I don't need that. So now that we have the mowing option set, all I need to do is come down here and hit start, and we're ready to mow. And after pushing start, it is ready to go. Just like that, it is off. You can see how much power that puts into going forward. Other robots seem like they have kind of struggled to know exactly what they're doing, where here this knows exactly its next move. As soon as it gets to the edge, it's turning around and heading in the right direction. So far, off to a great start. And you can already see how well that has cut just in those two little things. This isn't sped up at all. This is full speed, and there's a lot that it needs to cut right here. That just works so well. And in just a few minutes, you can see it's already cut all over here. It just has a few strips to do on the front. Now this grass is a little bit tall. It might be trying to avoid it. We'll see. Now for these two sections, I did make them one lawn, so I have it going over the concrete here. That's because this section right here, it was too small for it to map on its own, but it worked pretty well mapping them together. Now once it finishes mowing the lawn, it's going to go and mow the other lawns before it then does a border around all of the lawn. And there it finished the front lawn, and it went across the path to the next lawn. Let's check an update. So here it's already mowed 23% of the lawn, and it's at 93% battery. And it did that in really just a few minutes, which is so awesome. Now, if there is an obstacle inside the yard, it will do its best to navigate around that. Here, it looks like we do have a little bit of edging that it'll need to do with the weed eater, but got pretty close. Again, high grass, maybe setting it to the higher setting could have helped. Now, one thing I love about robotic mowers is how quiet they are. Now, this is making a little noise, but compared to any other gas-powered mower, this is much less noise pollution. Now, I also love that as it's going, I'm able to get other things done, weeding the yard, whatever it might be. Now here it had one part that it missed, so it's going to go back and get that area because I was standing in its way, so it kind of stopped, navigated around me, but it's done with the rest of the yard, so it's going to come back and finish that area. And so far, the LiDAR navigation system is working perfectly. It knows exactly where it is. It knew where to go on the path between the fences here, and now it's headed to the third yard. This is working smooth. Now, if any time it kind of isn't fully balanced, it will turn off the blades. You'll hear it say that, but once it knows things are steady, it turns them back on and begins cutting. Now here I did put a little gap between this yard and here, so there is a tiny bit of weed eating I'll need to do there just so that I had separated the two lawns, but not going to be an issue. And here is the current state of the backyard. We'll do an after when it's done, most likely tomorrow. It has now finished the backyard, and this is looking so good. If only you could see it right now, but it's too dark. And here it completed 91% of the lawn. It just has a tiny bit left to do, and then it's gonna go around the border. Here it's showing that it did that with 57% battery life left, but we did get a notice that there's insufficient light. So we're gonna go ahead and end it for today, and then we'll finish mowing the lawn in the morning. Now last night I was a bit unprepared for it to dock back, but it gave a notice that there's insufficient light and it needed to return to the dock. Now I was able to go back into the app and force it to go out at night, but it just gave me a little warning. So I'm going to do a further test on obstacle avoidance to see how well that works at night, but we'll do that in a bit. Let's go ahead, jump back into the app, hit continue, and finish the lawn. Now in the app, it's showing that last night it just completed the task, which it didn't do the edge, but that's fine. We're gonna remow the lawn again today. I'm gonna do it a different direction. I'm going to change the obstacle avoidant height to the highest so we can get some of the taller grass here, and then it's going to go out and mow again, and then I'll show you how the edging works once it's done. And then there are the 3 edge options you have. You have to cut along the edge and automatically adjust based on the boundary it sees, which is nice. You have the option for it to cross over. So if you have an area where, hey, I'm making a video here. If you have an area where the border is level, so like the sidewalk is level with the yard, it will cut halfway on. And then you have the other option to just stay on the edge that I created in the map. All right, let's see how it does this time. And here in the back, it's doing the final check to make sure it has every area cut. And here it is going up the slope that we have in our lawn, handling it no problem. If it does come to a point where it gets a little stuck, it's gonna beep. If it's all at balance, it will turn off the blades, but then it readjusts and keeps going. Now that it has finished the main lawn, it is going to go through and do the TruEdge cutting. So it's gonna go right up next to the area all the way around the lawn and get as close as it can to cut that down. It's having no problem staying that close. It has now completed the lawn, and it did that with 52% battery left, pretty quick. And here in the app, if we just tap on Mowing Complete, it will show us the history. So right here, it shows that it completed 2,317 square feet in 51 minutes, which is pretty awesome. Now my yard is small, it's only about 0.05 acres. So if you had more like a 0.2 acre, it might need to recharge to be able to do that. But I think that was awesome. That worked great. The only thing that it missed was that little patch of grass that I guess was just a little too long. It didn't want to go over it, thought it might have been an object. And then I don't know if it did a border on one of the yards, but that's okay. Not a huge deal. So now let's go ahead and see exactly where it did miss to see where maybe it could improve over time. Let's take a look around to see how it did. Overall, the yard looks amazing. Cut down to that 2.8 inches, I believe. Looks really, really great. Over here, it did miss this one little tiny patch of grass, but getting up against the edge, you can see it's about 2 to 3 inches away where it does that edging. So it's need to come and do a little bit more trimming right up there, but the rest of this lawn looks great. It handled these steps really well, getting up as close as it could to these and then just do a little trimming like I typically do. This smaller area, I have, some uneven spots, so a little bit more difficult for it to do, but it did a pretty good job. Now I mentioned over here, I don't think it did do the final border, so it did miss some right here, but of course the biggest thing, it would not cut this just because it was a little too tall, a little too big of an area that it didn't want to go over, risking hitting something it shouldn't supposed to. So I think it's good that it erred on the side of caution. And here in the backyard, it did great. You can see that clear line that I'll need to come through and trim, getting right up to the edge there. Didn't miss any spots around here. Coming back over here, we have a bit of a hill, and I love how it did this area of the yard. Very carpet-like finish. Missed one little patch of grass right here, and then a couple little patches that it showed on the app that it had missed. So right there you can see the tree bushes were in the way, so it wasn't able to go and get that all the way. Right here I'm not exactly sure why I missed, but something that maybe we'll get next time. And here's another area where a little bush was in the way for it to get all the way up to the edge, but it did a great job all the way around the trampoline. No complaints there. Now, one more thing that the map does show us once it's complete is these little red areas. And that's an area where it just had a struggle getting to and wasn't quite able to cut it the exact way it wanted to, or maybe it was getting a little stuck there. So that's something that you might want to adjust your boundary. I can't really adjust the concrete here, so not going to do much about that. But those are just some things to avoid. And then you can see down here, it did miss these two little areas. Could have been because the tree was an obstacle in the way and it didn't want to go over it, or it just was at too steep of a slope. So that's an area I might need to go and manually cut with my trimmer. So that worked great. Now let's check out the other ways in which we could mow a lawn. So right here on the main page, you have simple options. You can go back to the station, or you can do auto, which is what we did. It uses the preset mower settings that I showed you before. But if we want to adjust that, we can just tap on auto, and here we could choose area. Area lets us choose a specific area of the lawn to mow. So you could mow 1, 2, or all of them. But there I can tap on the front yard, and then it's just going to mow the front yard. So then the next option is edge. And with this mode, it's just going to go around the perimeter of the area. So you can choose multiple areas, and it's going to do that 5 centimeters away from the edge and have a really nice clean finish. Up here in the corner, you can see it missed this spot when it just did the mowing, but when it did the edging, it got it. Now the next mode is manual mode. So once we have manual selected, we just need to be close enough to connect over Bluetooth.
Exit the station. Please wait.
And now I can easily drive it where I want to go, or I can even turn on the blades. So let's turn it on here. Sure, 3.2 sounds good. And we have now activated the blades, and now I can cut anywhere I want. So maybe if I missed a spot, I can easily go through and get that area, and every inch of the lawn can then be cut. And once we're done, we're going to tap exit. And here it's confirming that I want to exit manual mode. And that is manual mode. And now we can tap this charging station to go back to the charger. And then last here we have enhanced mode. So this is a feature that's suggested to use when the grass is higher than 4 inches but less than 6 inches. And then obstacle avoidance height is going to be adjusted to 25 centimeters or 10 inches. So this is going to really cut the grass down where it's ready to be maintained a much lower height. So then we can go in here, we can choose the area we want, tap start. And then it's going to go through and cut down the grass in that area for an easier to manage lawn. So here you can see it's going much slower. Doesn't have that obstacle avoidance turned on, so it's just going to do its job getting this mode, cutting it down to height. And here looking at the enhanced mode, you can see the nice crisp cut it has, and you can even see those nice lines that it has put on the lawn. It's going nice and slow, making sure it gets every area of the lawn cut. And that took a little bit of time, but the final result is worth it. This looks so good. Now I didn't test this on super long grass, but I don't think I'll have any issues getting through that and making a tall grass lawn look great. Now let me show you how you can create a schedule. So this is great because you can have it just automatically do its thing, no needing to worry about it. So here in the app, you can just swipe over, we have schedule, we can tap create, and then here we can set it to run at specific times. Now there's 2 ways to do this. You can have it just run to complete the area, or you can just have it keep mowing during a certain period. Maybe if it rained, once it stops raining, it could then keep mowing after the rain is done. So here, let's say I want it to mow Monday night at 1700 hours. So I'm just going to tap on that box. You can choose the full area, or a specific area. So if you wanted to mow back, side, front, whichever. So we're just going to choose full area, and it says it's going to take 1.25 hours to complete that. And then we can choose when it's going to run. So it's going to start at 1700 and it would finish by 8:15. But like I said, if you want to extend that time in case something happens where it needs longer, maybe it needs to recharge, you can add it for a longer time period, or it got wet and it needs more time to finish the mowing. We can tap confirm, and then here you have the option to turn on and off that schedule, so you don't have to go through and delete a schedule. If you don't want it to run at a certain time, you just simply turn that off. But we tap save, and then it has added that to our plan. And then we can go in and add anytime we want. Maybe you want to look out for certain days when you have your sprinklers come on, mow on the opposite days. I think mowing 2 or 3 times a week will be great. You know, this is mulching just a tiny bit at a time, but a couple days a week is going to make it so your lawn is looking nice at all times. Now that we have our schedule created, the last feature to show you is how you're able to view this from your phone. So up here at the top, we have the little camera icon. I then have a PIN code set to be able to log in. So this is very secure connection. Once we remember our password and put that in, then we can open the video, and it's not going to show us much right now while it's docked, but we can then see a live feed of what is happening.
Video turned on.
So then here, once it loads up, I have all of these different options on screen. So I'm able to use the call button down here at the bottom where I can simply talk through my phone, and it will then project that onto the robot.
Hey, you kids, get off the lawn.
Then over on the left side, you can see that I have the control stick where I'm actually able to drive this around the yard. Now up in the top left corner, you can see the connection to the phone and the network. Now you are only able to use this while you're directly connected to the phone to remote control it, but I was able to view this from afar when I wasn't home on my Wi-Fi network. I could watch and see what it was doing, take pictures and record. And then here at the bottom right, we have the option to return to the station. Next, we have the media button. So here I'm able to snap a quick photo, or I can even record a 30-second video. So whatever it sees, I'm going to have a recording of without any of the things on screen. And you'll be able to go into the gallery and then download those right to your device. The ECOVACS GO series is also smart home compatible. So you can use your voice assistants, Google Assistant, as well as Amazon Alexa to be able to do this. So once you have linked the skill or linked the Works with Google program, here on our Alexa Smart Display, all I need to say is, Alexa, ask GOAT to start mowing.
Okay, now your GOAT is mowing.
I went out and checked, and it is currently mowing. So there are a bunch of different commands you can use. Here, I'll put a bunch on screen. Let's go ahead and try it with the Google speaker. Dock GOAT A3000.
Start charging. Work completed.
And there it went back to the charger. Success. Here are a list of different commands you can use with Google Assistant. Now here at the home screen, you also have the option to share your robot with others. So here, I want to share it with my dad. I'm going to tap the GOAT at the top, tap share, and then here I can share via email, add his email address, and then he can create an account on his phone, and then we both have access to view and control the robot. Now the last thing to test is its obstacle avoidance. We know the LiDAR is able to work really great, but with the LiDAR and the vision in front, how does it do with objects in the way? Let's find out. All right, built into the GOAT A3000 is a Horizon X5 chipset, which means it has an 8-core processor and it's able to quickly navigate around different objects. So we are now going to do a test. It can identify different animals. Here's our little hedgehog. We'll see if it can go around that. A little basketball, you know, just some typical yard toys. And it's going to navigate around some of these. Haven't done this test on these devices before, so we'll see how it goes. I am going to turn on animal protection mode to see if that does anything different with this little animal we have here. Now for this, I have selected the flat ground with short grass avoidance mode, so that's the highest mode I can get. And then I have turned on the animal protection. And then over here on the main page, we're gonna go ahead and choose area and choose the front. See how it does. My hedgehog was stolen, so it's now a bunny. And I chose a diagonal pattern, so starting off, went right between the two. So there, as it approaches, it slowed down, saw the object, turned around it without touching it. Now here I have tried a few different flat objects before. I decided to go with this one that's a little taller. It looks like it didn't see it first approach. As you can see, it's already broken, so it doesn't matter if... All right, so it's tall enough where it's getting pushed out of the way. Too bad, didn't see it. There it saw the other obstacle, Still didn't bump into it because the other one was in the way. Time to throw this out. Now it does say objects 3.9 inches and higher, so that is a limit to it. So if you do have anything smaller than that, I would recommend to pick up your yard every time before it goes out and mows. And now you're not only gonna have toys, but here I have some steps that are obstacles, and so far it's done a great job at seeing them and navigating around them without scraping up the robot too much. All right, here it's coming up on the little basketball and went around it, and when it does see an object, it usually turns around and goes back, but when it's done completing the first pass, it will go back to the other side and complete those, and if the object moves during the mow, it will also check to make sure the object has moved to finish mowing that area. Oh, that's different. So there you go. It got picked up and noticed something was wrong. So this is not quite tall enough for it to see. Let's see, okay. It handled it by going a different direction. Got pretty close to that bunny, but it did back up. And there, it was a little more cautious. It saw it a little earlier. And here in the app, you can see some of those darker areas. That's where obstacles were, so it wasn't able to get. I've now removed the obstacles, and now it's gonna finish all those areas to complete the mow. Now, overall, I've been very happy with its obstacle avoidance ability. The biggest concern about these lawn mower robots is if they're staying in the bounds you set, and if they're gonna cut anything they're not supposed to. Well, so far, it's 100% stayed within the area that I have said to mow in. If the kids leave their toys on the lawn, that's kind of their fault if something happens to them, but I had no problems with it avoiding obstacles that were higher than 4 inches, so just something you might need to be aware of. It has now completed this area, and I would say it passed my obstacle avoidance test, but can it do it at night? Let's find out. It is now nighttime, and we're going to test to see if it is able to mow at night. And there it has started mowing without any issues. There is a street lamp here that is causing a bit of light here in the front area, so we'll see if that helps it, and then we're going to take it to the back where it's pretty much pitch black to see if it's able to run there. And then we're also going to do some obstacles to see if it still has as good a vision here at night. And here the first obstacle is in place. Let's see how it does. Oh, it saw it, touched it, went around it, very nice. Now the second obstacle is a very flat thing, so we'll see if it sees that one. And didn't quite see that one. Give it one more shot. We didn't need that one anyway. All right, now let's test in a much darker area. And as you can see, this is much darker, but so far it is mowing without any issue. Here in the app, I did just get a notice that there is insufficient GPS and docking, so I'm going to hit continue, and it says without light, it's not able to go, but I said, yes, I want to switch to edge mode. Let's see if it comes back to the backyard here to mow, and we'll see if it can navigate around this ball obstacle that you can probably barely see right there. I have now tried multiple times, and I keep getting the error that there is insufficient light, and it will not continue, and it just keeps turning around and going back on the path. We're going to try one more time. It was when I turned it to edge mowing that it would not complete, so we're back to the regular mowing. There you can see the little light on it. Also, shout out to not having annoying lights. Even when it's charging, it's just that tiny light on top, which is just fine. So I'm thinking that right now it's going to mow just fine, but it's not able to do the edge on the lawn just because it can't see that border. It doesn't have lights, or it doesn't have enough night vision to be able to see that. That's fine. It cuts the grass at night, no problem. So then you can have it do the edge another time just by selecting edge mode on your different areas. And here, looking at the night vision from my camera, you're able to see that LiDAR sensor in the front as well as on the top, so that it can see where it's going. It's seeing this day or night. That's kind of how it's seeing around, but it's really cool that we can visually see it with this night vision security camera. And there it avoided the excavator. Always good to move your toys before you start mowing. And so there you can see at night, it had no problem avoiding the large ball that was in the ground. Let's try something a little smaller. And here, when I put the obstacles in front of it at night, it had no problem navigating around them as long as it could see it. Just like during the day, it needed to be at a certain height, but there was no difference in its ability to navigate around obstacles no matter the time of day. So overall, the main thing at night is it will not be able to edge the yard. It can fully mow the lawn without any problems, but once it gets to the edging, it will automatically return back to the charging base just because it can't safely get to that edge. It wants to have that vision as well. So that's the only thing that you don't get with the A3000 when you are trying to mow at night. Now, surprisingly, the next morning at 9 a.m., I saw that the robot had left the charging station and went out and finished doing the edge on the backyard. And once it completed that, it then returned back to the charging station. And there was no notice that it was going to do that, but it did complete that task 100% when there was enough light available. Now, in conclusion, this is the LiDAR enhanced robot mower that you are looking for. From the very first time I set up the GOAT A3000, I was so impressed by how quick it was able to get the mapping done. Auto mapping worked amazing. And then once we started mowing, it was able to go quickly back and forth. The turns, just how quick it turns compared to other mowers that I've tried, is so fast. And then that 32-volt energetic platform, being able to give that constant power to the blades when you cut the lawn, you just can hear it actually being cut, and it's so smooth and quick and does a great job in the first pass. I love all the features that it has in the app. There's plenty there that you can customize it to exactly what you want it to do on your lawn. And then everything else, not having an RTK to deal with the signal and all that problem was so nice that this has that enhanced LiDAR, and it's working great. I think this is like the first LiDAR enhanced that they've ever done, and it does awesome. They're just taking that tech they've used from their robot mops and vacuums and applied it into here, and it was flawless. Now, there are a few things that could always improve. I did have problems where it wasn't cutting tallest grass in the yard, so maybe there could be a mode. Even the enhanced, it did go over that, but it would have been nice if I could set it to like do it 2 times on that taller grass. I also noticed that when it was going from one area to the next area, it was mowing, and maybe you don't want that. Maybe that's a good option to have. It would just be nice to have the ability to turn on and off some of those little things that it does. So there could be a few software tweaks in the app to make it flawless, but I really have no issues in the state that it's currently at. So maybe over time we'll see those improve, and that's the great thing about the robot mowers is they can just receive a software update and make little tweaks to improve that over time. But other than that, I didn't see anything else that would cause a problem. It never got stuck on anything. It was able to run and work without any issues. So if you have any further questions about the GOAT A3000, please let me know down in the comments below. If you want to see a large area lawn test, maybe I could do that. So please let me know if you want that as well. And I'll leave a link down in the description below where you can go and pick up yours today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.